I'm going. So I'm on page 97. It says, on the day this worksheet was written, the following stories appeared in the news media. Answer each question that follows. Research from Imperial College in London shows daily servings of nuts like cashews, walnuts, hazelnuts, almonds, and peanuts can reduce the risk of death from diabetes by 40%, cut heart disease by 30%, and cancer by 15%. Okay? So we can create the null and the alternative just from the statements. Okay, so nuts don't help with health. And then being that's reducing, nuts can reduce diabetes and heart disease. Okay, so that's basically what we would come to on page 97. Hey, what do we got here? Let's see. Not here, and here. Cool.
Thank you.
1 for 2, not half bad. All right. So did this study fail to reject or reject the null? How do we know? So this is problem number 1, but problem number 2, do we reject or fail to reject the null? Okay. And how do we know? What do you think? I mean, CBS News, good source. Seems, I mean, it's a national or a worldwide. I mean, the things that, I mean, it appears that they're saying, hey, you have this Imperial College shows daily servings of nuts, like, can reduce the risk of death from diabetes by 40% and heart disease by 30% and cancer by 15%. I forgot to get in cancer. Okay. So here's the big question, and I love the thinking. So we have 40%, 30%, and 15%. Agree? Are any of those p-values? Did you see anything in there that says the p-value was? So I'm going to say this is neither. I don't know a p-value. That's missing. Okay? I mean, it looks like a really good, a great presentation, and it's very possible because it says that on this day on the worksheet was written the following stories that appeared in the news media. Okay, so it appeared in the news. So, you know, just based on the headline's not going to reject or fail to reject the null. Okay, like we could I mean, it looks like it's trying to say by what it shows that it rejects the null. This it appears that it's aiming towards, but I don't have the p-value one way or the other. I don't know. You really need that p-value. That's, I mean, it appears that it's rejecting it because nuts don't help with your health. But then it says nuts can reduce diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. So, I mean, the headline's good. So it appears that it has rejected the null that nuts have no health effects. it appears that it's rejecting, but I'm really quite worried that there's not a p-value that is associated with it. Okay, so those are some things. I mean, these are the types of headlines that did the companies that grow, the farms that grow the nuts, did they pay CBS News to do a story based on nuts? It's very possible. I mean, a lot of times news media outlets might do a story based on somebody paying them a certain amount and becomes like a paid advertisement that's actually on the news. Okay, many years ago, they came out with a story. Oh, this was in the 80s, and it decimated the chicken farmers that have eggs that they produce, because they said eggs, by eating eggs, it increases your cholesterol. I mean, it just the headline itself just blew it out of the water as a bad thing. And there was a lot of farmers that were in dire straits because it was publicized that eggs increase your cholesterol level. Okay, so these are some things. I mean, this would be one of those something that somebody might see this and then they go over to the grocery store or go over to the Costco and they're buying all of these things with nuts because I just saw this. So it's like an impulse buy. I mean, there might be health effects to have eating these things, but again, I'm not seeing a p-value. This would appear that it would have been one tail because we had reduce, that's one direction and not the musical group. Okay, so I don't know. It just becomes, it's something where some of these kind of questions, you have to think a little bit deeper about, what am I reading, and is what I'm reading really the truth, especially if they're hiding a p-value. Okay, now it's very possible that this might have been a headline, but I'd want to see the study before I made any major lifestyle changes saying, I'm going to change everything to eating, cashews, walnuts, hazelnuts, almonds, and peanuts. Okay, so I don't know, just kind of a interesting thing to think about. Halfway down the page on page 97, says use of long-term supplemental oxygen did not prolong life or delay time to first hospitalization compared to no long-term supplementation in patients with stable chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, according to the results a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Okay, so New England Journal of Medicine is probably going to be publishing things that are related to medicine. And so the null and the alternative O2, no effect on COPD. And then O2, less effects of COPD. Okay. I mean, that's basically what we're testing. Would this be a one or two-tailed alternative hypothesis? Well, it said did not prolong life or delay of time. So I think this has got to be a one tail because delay is in there. Okay. And then prolong is in there. Okay. And then number 6, now we have a p-value. So they tell us that there's a p-value of 0.035. Is this a number that is less than 0.05? Is 0.035 less than 0.05? Yeah. So what are we going to do? Reject the null. Reject null, which is h sub 0. Evidence to support HA being the p-value is less than 0.05. Okay? So now we're kind of getting somewhere with this. And then they said, hey, let's say we had a p-value of this. P-value is equal to 0.376. Is that less than 0.05? Do you want a 37.6% or do you want a 5%? So this is a bigger number, right? This is larger. So we will fail to reject the null, which means little to none, no evidence to support HA. Okay? Does that seem all right? I mean, the p-value is everything to us right now. That's our big thing. And yes, there are going to be other tests that we'll look at. I mean, we'll look at t-scores as well, which that's later. But that's basically how we'll go through it. What was different about the bottom stuff versus the top? We had a p-value that was given to us. Whether it was given to us part of the study or just arbitrarily made up, I don't know. I'm hoping if it was posted in the New England Journal of Medicine, those would be true p-values that could have taken place. Okay, page 98. Describe the research decision in the context for each situation. So number 8 says medical study will be performed to see if there is any link between coffee consumption and acid reflux. And we have a p-score that is 0.019. Well, this is less than 0.05. So if this is the case, this would reject the null because we are less than 0.05 for a p-value. Okay? All right. A study is performed to see if the excessive smartphone use leads to insomnia. Ooh, said something about a smartphone. P-value is equal to 0.167. That is bigger than 0.05. Okay, so this one we fail to reject the null. Okay, little evidence for HA. So the big thing to remember, the null hypothesis is showing no direction. It's just saying, hey, I mean the hypothesis, the studies performed to see if excessive smartphone use leads to insomnia. So our null would be smartphone does not lead to insomnia. Our alternative would that it does lead to leads to insomnia. Insomnia is sleep deprivation, so it's a one direction, one tail. Okay, so hey, that's kind of good news for you guys because you've only used your phones like 3 times so far today. So good thing is you're gonna sleep well tonight. It's like I always sleep well. Good. Hey, we've all subjected hearing something, and you might have said this, or your friend might have said that. Oh, that's a bunch of bull poo poo because it doesn't do that to me, right? I mean, that's part of life. We've all had that. If you read something and it's like, well, that doesn't do that to me. Well, that's an observation. That's not the value. Number 10 says a study is performed to see if the high cholesterol levels can be associated with increased risk for heart disease. And this gave us a p-value of 0.048. That is less than 0.05. So we would reject the null because we have evidence that the increased cholesterol, I don't know how to spell cholesterol, C-O-L, increased heart disease. So it's a one-tail event, definitely. All right, and then down the middle of 98, it says, we wish to perform a study to see if the increased presence of superheroes increases the safety level of everyone in the city. Oh, okay. So now it's kind of like a comic book. I mean, superheroes, we want them to be real. Let's face it, my first superhero I was subjected to as far as a movie was Superman. And it was way back in the day, but it was great. Were people safer in Metropolis because Superman was there? Well, in the Superman movie that I saw, he saved the president because the president's airplane's engine got blown off by lightning. So Superman helped the president's plane land safely. He helped a girl get her cat out of the tree. He helped Lois Lane, who fell from the helicopter at the very top of the building. I'm just talking about things. So it's just kind of funny that they're doing this. So if we stated our null, superhero, no extra safety. The alternative, superhero made safer. Okay. If I wanted to, so this is a one tail. If I wanted to make this a two tail scenario, I could say superhero changed safety. Okay, that means it became more dangerous or became more safe, so that you have two ends. And explain why one tail is generally more preferable than a two tail. So this is number 12. So a one tail is either of these scenarios that you're testing. So you have over here, so this would be a less than. Or if you had over here, greater than. So you have direction. Like if you're doing if you're part of a drug company and you're making a new drug that's you want to lower a certain bad thing going on in the body, you want to test that. You don't want your null hypothesis saying that, drug A has an effect on the human body, because it could harm you, but it could help you. So the two tail is both sides has an effect. And the effect doesn't always have to be positive. Okay? So the quiz for tomorrow, hang on, let me go grab it. I just want to take a look at it. Yeah, this quiz, if you feel good with what we just went over, this quiz is going to cover it. Like if you feel good about this page, like honestly, if you were to make a or just have this one page right here, 97, 98, if you have it filled out and you feel comfortable with it, you should do very well on this quiz tomorrow. Okay? So I'm going to stop recording.